Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Passing Dimes. I say this a lot that I'm always excited for the guests, but I truly believe that this is one of the best players in the country, and I'm really glad we got him. So he's already a two-time national champion. He's got one silver, meaning he's played in the finals of USports every year he's played. He's been the championship MVP, and already he's competed on our junior national team, our B team, and even our senior A team. So please welcome to the show, Eric Loeppky. Eric, thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Josh.
So I guess my first question is, how does a kid from small town Manitoba grow up to be so dominant of volleyball? What was your intake into our sport?
I grew up in a little bit of a volleyball family. My dad and my mom both played, and there was a pretty good beach league when I was really young that my dad played in at Grand Beach, and I would just come out every weekend with my dad in the early mornings to Lake Winnipeg, and I'd hang around with all the guys and Pepper, and just kind of fell in love with it from a pretty young age. And my dad was also a coach for club teams, and I would just go hang out at his practices ever since I can remember. And then slowly just kind of started getting into drills and stuff, and yeah.
And what do you remember about your recruiting process? Because obviously you would have got a lot of attention with all your high school and club accomplishments. What made you pick Trinity?
It was actually kind of an interesting recruiting process because I used to set in high school, and I remember in grade 11 that Garth Pischke from University of Manitoba, he was wanting me to commit as a setter in grade 11, and I was like, it was kind of like my first pressure to commit to a school. I spoke with Ben Joe and Terry Danowith previously at Nationals, my grade 10 year, but I was getting some pressure from Garth to commit, and I was like, oh man, he's a legend. I'd be so honored to play for Garth. And I messaged Ben Joe on Twitter to see if he was still interested in me, and then he was like, oh yeah, we didn't know you were getting pressure to commit. We'll fly you out, maybe take your time a bit on the committing process. And that was, flew me out to Trinity, and I just loved it. And I think I knew right away that's where I wanted to go. And then I really took a step back, and I waited till the fall of grade 12 to sign, but that's kind of how the story goes.
Nice. Now, we love some name dropping on our show. Can you just mention some of the vets? I believe Schreimer was still there at Trinity. Who else would have been there to kind of show you the ropes and the culture of what everything Trinity's doing?
Yeah, I remember, Nick Del Bianco was in his fifth year. He was tearing up the league. Ryan Slater, Blake Shearhorn, Adam was setting. There was TK, Danny Grant, Brandon Schmidt, all those guys. I just looked up to those guys. They're unreal. Carter Bergen was also on that team, and I stayed with him on my recruiting trip, and I knew him because he was a Manitoba boy. Those are some big influences of why I wanted to go there. I looked up to Adam ever since I was 14. He was a tall setter with long hair, and I actually grew out my hair because I wanted to be like Adam.
Nice.
Yeah. Those are some pretty big influences to why I went to Trinity, and they made me feel welcome. It was pretty cool.
Now, did you expect to start as soon as you walked in the door, or did you have any expectations for your first year?
No, when I signed, I wasn't expecting to start. I knew the team was pretty stacked already, and my mindset going in was that I was just gonna try to obviously push for a spot and do my best. But I think that kind of ties into the reason why I went there. I didn't go there to just play. I went there to get better, and I thought that was the best place for me to get better. And I guess fortunately by the end of the year I was playing, so that was a pretty huge blessing. But I didn't expect to start when I signed. That wasn't my mindset or anything.
So now that you're in fourth year and the team's been competitive, well, as long as you've been there, but even years before that, What do you think Trinity's doing so well? Because when we had Adam Schreimer on the show, he says it's not a big secret. Like Benjo's just big on responsibility, accountability, and dependability, I think is what Adam said. Is that really the secret, that you guys keep it simple and everybody just comes to practice ready to work? Or what stands out in your mind that the team's been at the top of USports every year you've been there?
Yeah, there's no like secret formula to anything. I think it's just a combination of a lot of things. I think the guys Benjo recruits are awesome, and obviously he recruits talented athletes, but he also recruits character guys, and I think the culture is pretty special. And I think having a good culture and us all being best friends makes it a lot easier for the training environment to be productive. So I think everything kind of like works off of each other in its own unique way. And the way that Benjo has like set up our training and our practices and just everything we do to like the way we travel and hang out on the road, I think it all works out in our favor, and that's one of the big reasons why we are successful.
Nice, and it looks like you've got quite the road trip coming up. You guys will play the Can-Am Showcase here in Toronto, but you're also going to stick around Ontario and play McMaster and Brock.
Yeah.
What's that like leading into second semester? It looks like you guys are going to be quite busy coming off a big first semester, but then leading into another one of a tough second semester for Can West.
Yeah, I think we're all super excited. Playoff time is the best time of the year. It's like crunch time, and I think we're all looking forward just to get back to those kind of big games. And this Can-Am thing is a really cool opportunity for us to play some really good teams and test ourselves and, just really work together, because Benjo is also not going to be there. So I think it's going to be a huge test for us to see what we can really do with just each other and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Now, have you guys formally met to discuss what the plan is, like who's going to take first chair and how the team's going to respond, or is it just as simple as knowing that he's not there, but do you have a culture in place that's going to take over?
Yeah, I think some of the older guys on the team will obviously kind of take the reins of the on-court presence and leadership, which is usually, even when Benjo's there, I think that's pretty standard. That's how it goes. But as far as assistant coaches stepping up, we all want Adam to sit on the head coach chair just because he's first year, and I like calling him coach, but he doesn't like it when I call him coach. I'm hoping Adam Schreimer will take the head coach position for the weekend.
Nice. And is the key to adding McMaster and Brock to your schedule, is that really looking ahead to Nationals prep, or why do you think the team would agree to kind of add some extra load, or is it just exciting to play new people and you're already in Ontario and might as well just add to it?
Yeah, we're already out there and we got time, so I think it was just a good opportunity to get some more touches in and get a little bit of a taste of the Eastern teams, which this year we haven't really had too much of that. In my first 2 years, we used to go out and do this thing called the Eastern Coast Tour, where we would just go out for a week and a half to 2 weeks and just play so many Eastern teams. Just because of preseason this year, Benjo's at the national team. We had a lot of guys coming in late. We never really did too much preseason games playing Eastern teams. So I think it's just another good chance for us to get some games against a really good team, McMaster, and Brock will be sweet too. So, I just think it's another way to get in some more touches.
Nice. And just to get into your kind of playing style, anyone who's watched Trinity knows that you really like to go forward from the service line. Has that kind of been influenced by Benjo, or when did you kind of know that you could really help your team and kind of stay aggressive with the way you play and the way you serve?
Are you talking me personally, or as a team?
Let's go you first, and then if you want to share the team philosophy, I think that'd be great too.
Okay, cool. I think Benjo's kind of had influence on me with that, going for it from the service line. But he's also we work on it a lot, how well. This is more of a team thing, where how efficient can you serve with a high percentage. So can you hit your 9 out of 10 serve 80% of the time in, and that's something we really struggle with, and it's something really hard to do. So I think there's a lot of tactics and different drills and mindset things we do to try to master that, but it's a challenge. In some games, we're going to really rack up the misses, and other games we're not. So I think as a team, especially the first semester, that's something that we've been really working on. And I don't know if you watched our game against Calgary, but we float served the whole game. Like, everyone float served. Just really put some pressure on our block defense and see how that can, we want that to be our strongest part of our game. So there's Benjo's as a really cool way of making us try to push ourselves with different tactics of our game, and serving the last couple of years, I think, has been kind of pretty prevalent in the USports League.
Yeah, definitely. And you just mentioned your blocking. Obviously, Trinity's been pretty famous for being a very good bunch blocking team. If you wouldn't mind, if it's not too top secret, how often do you guys work on that in practice? And what are the keys for Benjo to be a good blocking team? Like, is it just a lot of cue reading? Obviously, your tough serving gets the setter off the net, which might mean it's going to the pins, a little bit more obvious. But how often are you guys hammering this out? Because it just seems like that's almost become a brand of Trinity, that you know you're going to get a good blocking team no matter who the players on the court are.
Yeah, we work on it quite a bit. We work on our timing, our reading. We do this drill called block defense drill, where the whole purpose of the drill is just to put the team in a good position, but then really just challenge ourselves to make positive movements at the net, with touches and slowdowns, and just working with our eyes, where our eyes are supposed to be, how we're supposed to read the setter and the hitters. And yeah, I'd say Benjo is a great teacher with block defense, and we have guys who really work on it and focus. So yeah, it's pretty prevalent in our gym.
Now, is that probably the biggest thing that Benjo's added to your game, or what have you probably learned the most since kind of entering the program as you progress?
Oh man, I feel like I've learned every skill. I feel like I've just kind of thrown it out and started from scratch, as thinking back to my first year. Yeah, I only wish I knew as much as I did now, but I would say from the biggest thing I learned through the years was a lot of my footwork and how important footwork is. And Benjo has different steps and footworks that he believes are most efficient for our athletes. And the tough part is about young guys on the team is you come in and you're probably pretty good on your club team or high school team, but then you're not the best player in the gym anymore. And then on top of that, Benjo wants you to do your skills that you're good at maybe a little differently than you've always done them. So yeah, my footwork, I think, was so bad coming into my first year. I used to do a two-step spin serve, and my left side, I would just approach straight down the line. There's a bunch of stuff Benjo fixed for me, so I owe that guy a lot.
Nice. And with your own development and even the team system, how much is outcome talked about? Do you guys have a goal that you say you want to win Can West and win USports every year? Or is Benjo a big process guy where you're just come to practice every day and kind of try to win that day?
I think it's a bit of both. I think we start from the end goal, and the end goal obviously is to win another championship. But I don't think we don't just make that goal and then just go practice and train. We work backwards, and it's kind of like a ladder essentially. We got to okay, let's win each weekend, win the first semester, win second semester, and then each playoff is its own kind of stepping stone. But then it also breaks down to every day of training, and it works backwards in itself, I think, to make it attainable. One of the mantras we use that Benjo talks about a lot is the 20-mile march. So there's a story goes, there's two explorers. They're trying to get to they're exploring the Arctic Circle, and it's a certain amount of miles, and there's two crews. They're racing to get there first, and one crew decides to just on the good days, they'll march as far as they can, and when it's snowing and storming, then they'll bunker down and they'll only do a couple miles. But the other group, no matter the weather, how they're feeling, any circumstances, they're going to put in 20 miles every day. And that group ended up winning and surviving, and everyone else in the other group actually didn't make it. So the point of that is we just try to every day come in and get our 20 miles in. If we can get our 20 miles in every day, then we believe that by the end we're going to be in a really good spot to hopefully win. So that's kind of our outlook, I think, on the season in general, if that helps.
No, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I hope Benjo doesn't mind us looking behind the curtain here as much as we have in the last few weeks with you, Adam, and Derek coming on the show.
No, I don't think I'll mind.
One more question for you just about Trinity. As an Ontario-based person, we're kind of fascinated sometimes by the Canada schedule where we play maybe a team in the fall and we play them again in the winter semester where you guys will play back-to-back. So with how prepared Benjo and the rest of the coaching staff are, what are some little adjustments you guys look for when you're playing teams in those back-to-back situations? Because it's got to be tough beating a team like Brandon twice in a row, or even just playing a team like that twice in a row, right? So what do you guys like to do on day two to kind of make sure you're adjusting?
For sure. I think day one is just always kind of everyone comes to play, and the game's super exciting because you've kind of been planning for them all week. But day two is super interesting because you recover after day one, go and get some sleep, and then you're in the gym the next morning doing video, game plan, and serve and pass to try to like anticipate what they're going to do tonight, like how are they going to adjust to us, but also what are some areas that we thought we need to improve on and fix. So I think, our coaches work really hard at that. Benjo always comes the next morning with like a video package and game plan adjustments. So I think a lot of the players too will take a look on volumetrics or something and check out some things, and we'll talk about it. It's a pretty, I think, team effort, but our coaches definitely put in a lot of work to get that going and help us out.
Now, do you think that method helps you guys prepare for nationals, where you guys have kind of earned the reputation where as the match progresses, Benjo or the other coaches are making adjustments where it looks like even teams you haven't seen, you're making quick cues and quick adjustments as the match goes?
For sure. I think we have a lot of eyes that are on stuff. Adam and Ben Paul are often communicating with the setters for different tactical stuff. Both those guys are unreal and know a lot about the position and volleyball in general, so I think they're a huge help. And we also got Joel and Ben giving us feedback or any input that we need. And also I think our bench is also awesome with that. Like, we want the guys to give us feedback, like, hey man, like 6 is sliding on you this way, maybe spike a little more line seam or go cross seam, or just little pointers like that. I think is so huge, and you kind of pick up any info you can. But there's a lot of in-game adjustments for sure, especially in between sets when you have a little bit more time to talk about things. But it definitely is something we do a lot.
Nice. Now, just to shift gears to your national team career, do you remember your first national team tryout? Because every guest we've had on just talks about how different the feel is, because obviously, like, Glenn, the head coach, is usually around, even if it's a youth event, but there's Lionel and an army of statisticians just ready with clipboards and sometimes like data volley to kind of chart everything. So it's just kind of a different mood in the gym, and it's serious. Do you remember how old you were and the first time you had a VC tryout?
Yeah, I tried out for a junior team at the end of my grade 12 year. So, it was in the beginning of June. It was the first summer of the 2-year cycle, and I decided I want to try out. Never played any Team Canada or provincial team up until that, so I was super nervous. It just kind of like, you just feel like, oh man, this is it, like Team Canada. This is like where it all begins, and you're super nervous. And I had I remember, I don't think I prepared very well for the tryout. Like, I didn't have anywhere to really, I wasn't into working out really yet, and I just kind of finished my club season and was playing some beach, and then went and tried out for the junior team. And I remember being so sore, like the whole tryouts, because I just had no concept of getting my body ready for like a big load like that over 3-4 days. But yeah, it was scary. I remember Glenn, like, I was just doing a drill, and I think it was like a free ball, and I passed it a little bit off the net, and then he came and just was like, hey man, like, that's got to be perfect. Like, we need that to be perfect. And then he just kind of walked away, and I was like, whoa, that was Glenn Hoke. He was talking to me. But yeah, it's crazy how, like, looking back now at something like that, it's like, you wish you could tell yourself to just relax, man. It's going to be fine. Just play your game and have fun, and coaches will notice you or not. So it's just how it goes.
Nice. And do you remember your first event when you actually got to suit up and play for us?
Yeah, it was that summer. There was a Norseca championship to qualify for the World Championships. It was in Gatineau that summer, so we just kind of trained up until that point. And yeah, it's wearing your country's jersey and hearing the national anthem for the first time, I think, is always really special. And yeah, I'll always remember that, and with those group of guys too.
Now, you've quickly progressed from the junior national team to the B team and even got to be with the A team. Obviously, it must be comfortable having some Trinity guys around, but has there been anyone else who's kind of been a role model or mentored you through the process?
Yeah, lots of guys, actually. I remember my first time training with the A team, and the guys were super encouraging, but they were also like encouraging in like a motivative way. Like, I remember guys like Jay Blankino and Blair Ban and Vigrass. They were kind of like, I remember one specific play, like I missed. It was kind of like a dig, an easy dig, and it wasn't like great quality. And they're like, come on, Leps, like, you got that. Like, it's got to be perfect. We know you can get that. And they just kind of like really want you to do well because they care about the program, which I think I noticed that was a little bit a different switch from being with the junior team and the B team, whereas everyone's still trying to like prove themselves to be an A team guy, whereas the A team guys already know that like they're studs and they just want their team to be the best they can, and the next guy's coming up, so they're trying to like give feedback and hold each other accountable, and to really trying to help you out because they know that helps the group collectively out. So yeah, Steve Marr's also been a great guy to talk to. Me and him still chat a lot about stuff, and I like asking him a lot of questions. But yeah, I can name a lot of guys, but everyone's been super sweet and yeah, just encouraging, and they really want you to succeed. So it's been really nice.
So with you making the A team, was that a goal you had set aside? Like, did it happen earlier than you thought? Do you remember when you got the call to kind of join the senior A team?
Yeah, I was like pretty shocked. It was after my second year, I was like kind of contemplating like if I should even try out for the B team. I was like some guys have like taken the summer off before, and it could be good for my body. Maybe I'll just work a summer and play some beach. But I like ended up signing up for the tryout, and then a couple weeks before the tryout, I got an email from Antigua that I was on the World League roster, and that was like super shocking to me that I was on the extended roster. I was like, no way, wow, this is amazing. So I actually ended up flying out earlier than the tryout and training with those guys for a couple weeks before Nations League, and then I participated maybe one day in a tryout, I think, for the B team, but I was on the Nations League roster, the 21-man roster, but I didn't travel. I was possibly going to go to China. I got my visa and stuff, but I didn't end up going. And then I moved down with the B team for the rest of the summer. And then at the end of that summer, there was a couple injuries. Riley Barnes broke his ankle, and Mar had some knee issues. So then I got to go up with the A team and travel with them to Poland and Slovenia, and that was like a huge experience for me. I felt like all summer with the B team, I was just like grinding, and I didn't know like how much I was improving. It was super hard to tell, super exhausting, training like double days, 5 days a week. But then when I went up with the A team, I felt like things just started to click a bit more. I'm like, okay, like you're just in the zone because everyone there is better than you, and you're just trying to like perform, improve yourself. So I think that was a really lucky transition that I got to experience, where I got to use kind of my B team grind for most of the summer, and then kind of see like what I learned and really put it out there at the end of the summer with the A team. Yeah, so I think that was pretty special.
Nice. Definitely an impressive story. One thing I want to ask you about is, did anything Antigua do stand out in your mind? When we had TJ on the show, he mentioned, like, Glenn gets a lot of credit, and it is well-deserved, but he mentioned that Antigua did a lot for the program and even for TJ's development about how to be creative and more competitive in certain situations. With your kind of limited time with him, was anything stand out to what he brought to the program?
Yeah, I think he just really showed me what it was like to be like a professional outside, and what I needed to do to like take that to the next level. And he's kind of a perfectionist, but he's also like, I think he's just a huge believer in competing and like working at your craft. And I really took away from him like just how important like the little things are with touches. He worked a lot with me on my reception. I think that's one of the biggest gaps going from USports to international is serve receive. It's just the serves are so much stronger, and to be like the left side in any top league, you need to be able to receive at a pretty efficient level. And I remember him telling me, he's like, before when I was going back to school, he's like, for you to be like, if you want to be here and you to be good, like you need to be like a better receiver than even the liberos. Like you have to be an amazing receiver. And he kind of really, I think, tried to input and implement that with me. And I've always like remembered a bunch of his cues, and he had a pretty thick accent, but you know, always say like strong fingers with receiving floats, and yeah, he was just super cool to see. Like Glenn's a legend, and I really like Glenn, but Antigua is more of like a young guy, and like he only stopped playing not too long ago. So, and he was also left side, so I really tried to learn as much as I could from him. But no, he was super influential.
Nice. Thanks for sharing that. So with you playing at such a high level in the summers, other than what you just shared about Antigua, is there anything else you've been able to take back to Trinity and not only help yourself but help the squad, seeing that you've been at the highest level?
Yeah, I think there's like obviously on Trinity there's guys who know what it's like. Like Derek's got some of that before experience, and Jackson Pierce have been with the B team, and Kern's played junior team, and a couple other guys have played junior team and FTC. So I think a lot of the guys know like the difference of pro and college, but it's also super sweet in our gym to have a lot of guys who want to be at that level and like to practice against those guys. Like I know, like me spiking against Pierce and Jackson in training is like the best thing for me as a college player. So I think the biggest thing I would say that maybe is we've tried to bring back to our team is like, how can we be accountable with each other, but not like don't be a dick, like essentially. But I think guys just trying to be like, okay, like how can I help these like first and second years, and bring back. I try to like say some of the things some of those guys say to me, like come on, man, like I know you can get that perfect, like that's got to be perfect, like you can do that, like just really push that extra focus. stuff like that. And I think with the older guys too, whenever we feel that maybe practice is slipping a bit, we're totally comfortable talking to each other. Like, I can be like, hey, Derek, like really try to get your side going, or he can say the same thing to me, or Kern, or Pierce, or I think it's a pretty collective effort with that sort of thing.
Nice. And one thing I did want to ask you, I mean, if Passing Dimes is ever going to be taken serious as a show, we got to ask the tough questions. So I'd like to actually end the rumor and hear it from you directly. Have you had the opportunity to go pro or hire an agent? And if so, what's made you stick back and stick with Trinity and USports?
Yeah, I have. After my summer going into my third year, so that summer I got to play a bit with the A-team, with Antigua and stuff. That was actually the summer where I really considered, and I almost left to go play pro. The reason was I was like, a couple other guys were leaving. Like that year, Finn McCarthy also left, and like Shawan, who's my age, was also just finished his first year. And I was kind of like, man, like, I feel like I got so much better playing with the 18 guys. Like, if there's, like, any shot at me, like, making it, like, maybe I should just go. Like, maybe I should leave now. And I've only done 2 years of school. Like, maybe I'll just leave. And I actually got an agent and everything. And there was a contract that I was looking at in Italy. And I talked to Benjo about it quite a bit, and my family and stuff, but I just didn't feel like right leaving yet. I think I could have played physically. I don't know if I was mentally ready to go, and honestly, I don't know if I was physically ready yet. My knees weren't great, and I decided that I wanted to get a degree. I'm in education, and I really just tried to think of the big picture, and that I think I'd really value a degree when I'm older. So after going back to my third year, I just figured, like, okay, I've done 3 years of school. I'm almost done. Why would I, like, put in 3 years and then not finish 1 more year to get my degree? But I would say, like, the most stress I had about it was going into my third year, actually, because I was also learning a lot, and I was asking a lot of questions. And then after my third year this past summer, I felt like I had a lot more knowledge about everything, and I kind of had already made up my mind what I wanted to do. But yeah, I guess whatever rumors were out there, some were true, but not all of them were true.
Nice. Well, I think you make USports very entertaining, and obviously helps Canadians kind of have somebody to look up to. But yeah, I think everybody knows you're skilled enough, so it's kind of interesting to hear why you're still here when you're right. There are people in your generation like Finn and Shawan who have chosen to kind of start early. So it is neat to hear right from your perspective why you're still competing in USports. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem.
Now, with obviously a lot of the top teams being in Europe and obviously overseas, like we don't have a pro league here, what kind of goes into your consideration? Like, are you relying a lot on former athletes, or obviously Benjo has sent a lot of athletes to play pro ball? Like, what advice would you give to a club kid who might be saying, you know what, I want to play professional club volleyball, but I'm not really sure what that is. I have favorite clubs that I watch on YouTube or the internet, but I don't really know the behind the scenes. Like, how do you kind of find out that information to make sure it's going to be a fit for you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just to ask questions, and like, people who've done it before and have knowledge of it are usually pretty open to talk about it, especially guys in the national team. So yeah, I just ask a lot of questions. I'm like, oh, so what is this league like? Do you think like this league would be more fit for this style of player? How many internationals can they have? What are the contracts like? What's it like life like in general? Is it a safe place? I think there's just a lot of questions that are cool to ask, and if someone is open to talk about it, it's pretty fun and exciting to look into. So for any kid who has dreams of playing pro, I just think they should, if they want to play pro, they gotta just keep getting in their 20 miles every day. So, and hopefully they can get good enough to be there one day. And with this day and age with video and everything and connections, I think if you're good enough, you're going to get your name out there. And yeah, you're going to be fine.
Very cool. Thank you. Now, you've hinted at this a couple times. It wouldn't be a Passing Dimes episode if we didn't find a way to talk about beach. Do you think that's where you developed a lot as a youth athlete, is playing the beach game? Like, would you recommend kids everywhere try to find a way to kind of play, whether it be for fun or competitive with their friends, just find a way to get out there and play some twos?
Yeah, I love beach. I actually played beach before I ever played indoor. So I think that was super huge for my game, and I think it still translates to how I kind of play now. Like I try to make a lot of shots and different dumps and wipes and stuff. So I think it's super huge for anyone to be able to go back and forth, and I think it will translate into their indoor game, especially as an outside player and receiver and with any ball control. But yeah, I actually remember I went to Beach Nationals and I was 12, and it was at Asbridge's Bay, and we played Jordan Pereira and Craig Island was there, and Andrew Koss, and yeah, Parvier, Shawan's buddy. There's so many guys there. And it's pretty funny, looking back at some Beach Nationals in 2010 or whatever. But
yeah, that's a pretty stacked division. You're right. When we start to look back at it, that's funny.
Yeah, it's really funny. I'm forgetting some names, and I apologize if I forgot some names. But Zach Albert was there, and Ethan from Laval.
Ellison, nice. Yeah,
it was funny. But that's crazy. It was a long time ago.
So,
and I think,
would you ever consider coming back to the beach? Obviously, you're going to have your first choice to kind of play indoor and play with our senior A team for a long time, but is that something you would look to do eventually?
Yeah, it's always been a dream of mine. I'd love to try to play on the tour, AVP or something even like that, but yeah, who knows? I would for sure keep that door open, and maybe one day when my knees aren't as good anymore and switch to the sand, get a little more cushion, but who knows? But I would for sure keep it open.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. I can't thank you enough for taking the time, especially for somebody who gets limited off time and I'm sure wants to spend a lot of it with their family. So thanks for taking the time. Before we get you out of here, though, it's kind of become a Passing Dimes tradition where we've asked anybody who's kind of competed internationally if there's just been a funny story from the road or something odd that happened where you're like, man, I'm playing at the highest level of my sport and I can't believe that silly stuff keeps happening every once in a while. So do you have any road trip stories you could share with us?
Yeah. Oh man, I think just okay. Well, on the last weekend of VNL, we were in Brazil, and me and Adam Schreimer, I don't know, we were just in a goofy mood. I felt the whole trip, and we ended up just pranking Lucas Van Berkel and Dan JVD and Jason DeRocco and Nick Hogue a bunch. It was just so fun. We went to the lobby and we said hey, I'm Lucas. I lost my room key. Could I get a room key? And while they were eating, we went to his room and moved a shampoo in the fridge and switched all his insoles and put crumbs in his bed, and yeah, it was pretty fun. It's just fun having chill time on the road to goof around. I'd say that was one of my funnest trips of the summer. It was the last weekend in VNL and kind of pranking some of the older guys. But
now, do they know you did this, or hearing this episode is what's going to kind of get you and Adam into a little bit of trouble here?
Oh no, they know that we were stirring the pot. Lucas stole my phone for a while, but I pretended that I didn't know it was lost. So then he gave it back. But yeah, no, they know what was going on.
Awesome. I love it. I love a good story from the road. So thanks for sharing that. We've taken a lot of your time. I'm glad you could take the time to meet with us and kind of share everything you did. It's it's nice to see your journey because everybody sees how skilled you are. It's kind of nice to see what went into that and how you're still improving. So thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Everybody will have to get out to the Can-Am Showcase, which is December 28th to 31st here in Toronto. And then lucky Ontarians, you're going to be sticking around to play Brock and McMaster. And then obviously you got a big second semester coming up with Trinity. So busy year ahead, and just thanks for taking the time. We'll have to have you back on soon.
Yeah, man, of course. Really appreciate it. Love to be back soon.